The terrors of tripping on pumps.
Be there! Scour the spaceways! Explore vast alien worlds!
This tin right here contains the whole rigmarole.
I used to smoke about an ounce of hash every day.
Good.
And it made me go a little bonkers.
Maybe if I occupy his mind with more duties, I can control his space.
Hi.
Big fat
Hi.
doobies.
Hi. Hi.
Hi. What's up, everybody? Today is Saturday, May 30th, 2020, episode 201 of The Hot Box. I'm Matt. That's Grand. What up, Grand?
What's going on, buddy? How you doing today?
Good, man. Good week. Good week. Not so good week, I guess, depending on where you're at, what you're doing. Here in the Dabs community, though, it's been a pretty good week. I don't think no more N-bombs have been dropped by old ladies or anything. I think it's been a pretty good week overall.
Oh my god, we're gonna jump back to that right away.
Nah,
back to the freaking Nazi grandma.
No. That's last week's news.
That's last week's news.
This week's news. All sorts. Hotbox.earth. Check out the site. You can find all the links to all of our stuff there. Subscribe to the podcast. Find the Discord chat where we hang out all week. And that's where the show's streamed from. Also, we're on iTunes, Stitcher, Apple Podcasts. That's iTunes, I guess. Google Podcast, YouTube, all that stuff. So definitely, if you like the show, subscribe, show a little support, show some love. Out of the Dab subreddit, we'll start things off. User Real Madrid Fool talking about some interesting dab tool melt videos, I guess. You know, dab community likes their melt videos.
Absolutely, they do. Dab tool melt videos, just what, different types of dab tools?
Yeah, pretty much, I guess. Just kind of showing that, you know, not all dab tools are the same, and you should definitely be weary of, like, what you pick up if it's on the extra cheap, because some of these dab tools, depending on how hot you go into your banger or your nail or whatever, they could melt. And this video here shows a pretty good example. What was the consensus? Is that tin that it was made out of? Aluminum, perhaps? He hits it with a torch and it just straight up melts. Like the dab tool, like melts. So
I don't know, but anything that melts when you hit it with a torch, like instantly, you should not. Well, anything that doesn't glow red after you hit it with a torch for like 20 seconds, you shouldn't be using.
He didn't even hit it. I don't know if there was like preheating involved, but if you watch the video there in the chat, you'll see it. It pretty much melts like right away, which is super sketch. And I guess the kid said that he took a rip and he got like a weird, gross taste. So he was definitely, it was melting, or at least at the very least off-gassing on whatever temp his nail was. So then obviously hitting it with the raw power of the torch, and it just like melts. So definitely be careful out there, you know?
That's like aluminum or something, man. Yeah. Well, and before you use any tool, you should heat treat it. And one, cleanse it and make it clean, and two, to check it for stuff like that.
Unless it's glass. Don't you don't need to torture
Don't
glass
torch
glass dab
Obviously,
tools.
clean that with ISO, but any metal or stuff like that, always heat treat the tip where you're going to be using dab, because it'll sterilize it and it'll check for stuff like that.
And I'm guessing this wasn't like purchased from an actual reputable titanium dab tool reseller. Like there's a lot of places you can go online, you're going to pay a little bit of cash, but you know what you're getting is like legit titanium. I know the bone dabbers I use that the bone carver dude makes, these are all legit TI. You can see my leftover dabs on it.
And
But
titanium's not even that expensive, really. I mean, I got mine. I think mine's like medical grade stainless steel or something like that. But it was only like $8.
And I'm guessing these ones are the ones you find on Amazon. And like I've bought a couple sets from Amazon. They're usually called like the Wax Carver tool set. And they're dope as shit because they come with a bunch of different shapes of like paddle and like they're for sculpting wax. So
Right.
I've never actually torched one before to see if it's actually like stainless or titanium and not aluminum. But I also don't use them for actual dabbing. They're more used
Right.
for like scooping a dab dab in, and I'm not like going in hot when I'm using them. I have my glass and my actual, other titanium dabbers for that, but they're really good for like mixing terps and stuff like that with.
See, I wonder if that actually might have something, because if it's not stainless or titanium, I mean, I know some metals are almost have like a powdery like film on the outside too.
Yeah, I'd be super wary of anything that's not like actual titanium or glass. I don't know.
Anything you can't hit with a torch, or obviously glass, don't hit with a torch, but anything you can't hit with a torch, don't really use.
Yeah, Vinter in the chat says stainless steel and titanium are dirt cheap. There's no reason to not use them in dab tools. Glass too. And Tooth Sweet says galvanized equals a no. Don't use galvanized.
Yeah, galvanized has poisonous gases that will off gas if you get it at a certain temperature.
Yeah.
That's no point.
And I keep like there's a new subreddit that was kind of an offshoot of I think cannabis extracts and possibly our dabs, but it's like fake dabs or fake something. And I've been seeing a lot of people post a lot of like questionable material in there. And the thing I keep coming back to is just like at the end of the day, like suffocating fucking sucks and your lungs are super sensitive. And weed, like it's cool, you get high and stuff, but in comparison, like I don't feel like a weed high is worth like slowly suffocating to death or causing other damage. And it just, the thing I have to keep telling them is like, if you have to ask, just don't. I mean, it sucks, and I get not everyone's in a legal state that you have access to clean meds and everything, but is it worth it? I don't think it's worth it. For me, it's not, but that's just something you have to ask yourself.
Well, I mean, that's just knowing, like, kind of your dealer and where you're getting it from. You can't be getting it from, like, random sources.
From Amazon. I got the Mylars off Amazon. Next post off our dabs. Always like to go through a few interesting posts of the week there, since that's where the community is based around. The Amazing Nugget posted a pretty cool melt video of J-Red Power Gear. And I thought this was kind of cool. This is kind of the same idea as the J-Red Diamond Knot that I really like to use, except it's an insert, which is right up your alley. And it's a gear, which is kind of what came with his terp cyclers, I think they were called, when they first came out. But this cat is using a cap, and it's actually making the power gear spin, which I thought was pretty cool. Usually when you see them in the terp cycler, those things came with a specific bubble cap with a long nose that sticks all the way through the two gears, so they don't really spin, but it's meant to push that oil through the loop, which dumps it back on top of the gear. So I thought this was an interesting video showing how the actual gears themselves kind of spin. And what you see here on the side of the wall there, it's basically acting like a small micro-sized wipe film evaporator, which is kind of one of the machines I run at work, just way scaled down. You're heating up the oil and you're wiping it in a thin film around the banger, which is giving you more surface area touch time, whatever they call that. There's a word for it, I'm sure. And then that causes your vaporization to happen. So he's got himself a little white film evaporator in there. I thought that was kind of cool.
Dude, I've never seen somebody have it spin like that.
Right? Yeah. I think it's just the cap. It's got to be just about the cap and the fit in the banger, I would think. But pretty cool.
That's pretty nuts. I don't know. It's got to be. It doesn't look like a spin cap though, but I guess it has to be somewhat.
And the next one, I thought this was kind of interesting because we always see dabs and extracts and stuff, but rarely do you get to see how they're made, or at least what equipment they're made with. Seamus McDabbin here posted from his Mantis Extracts page some gear. And I actually am familiar with this gear because I used to work down there with Seamus McDabbin. And so I thought it was kind of cool because what you see here is he's got two in there now, but on each side is a separate extraction unit. And then you see the two big black pumps, which run your solvent recovery or your vapor push assist for moving the gas around and everything. And then just your columns and your collection pots and stuff. But super clean build, super nicely done. C1D1 room. As soon as any hydrocarbon is detected, the room auto vents itself. Like this is This is about as like professional as you will get in the industry here.
Really
So
slick.
shout out Seamus McDabbin. I definitely miss working down there with those cats. And
Chemist.
if you have any questions about what you're seeing there, definitely just shoot off in the chat room and we'll talk about it a bit more.
Absolutely, that sounds cool. I know a little bit about that, but I mean, I'm no professional like Mr. Matt over here.
Well, so the idea is you're just like everything's jacketed, so you keep everything cold, and then you just take your frozen weed and you put it in your columns, and then you run your cold solvent through it, and then you warm the solvent up enough to where it evaporates, depositing its oils, and then it goes back in the tank. Super simple explanation of it, but that's how like the loop works. And then you just have your various, hoses and valves and stuff to move the gas where you want it to go, when you want it to go there.
Right.
And then the pumps to do the pushing and the pulling. But super cool setup, definitely. And they're making some pretty nice stuff down there these days, I hear. If you have a chance,
like they would.
if you get a chance to try it, definitely recommend it. Not just because he's a friend, but because his shit's good. I'd tell him if his shit sucked. I'd be the first one to do it. Like, your shit sucks, bro. But it's pretty good. And then he posted also, I noticed on Reddit, that's cool, he's been a little more active on there, but you see a lot of CRC done wrong, and this is what your CRC should look like when it's done properly in the next post there. Beautiful looking slab skis. So if you have a question about if your CRC is done right, take a look at this. If it looks like this, then yes, it is. And if it's all cloudy and foggy looking, then it's probably not. So, CRC.
Oh yeah, I see
done
this
right.
when it came out. It looks so pretty.
Yeah,
Oh.
stable as fuck. Real nice clarity. That's basically what CRC does. That's what it's good for. Nice,
So beautiful.
nice looking slabs. And usually what you see in these this subreddit is a lot of like cloudy looking shit, a lot of like really white looking shit, like almost too white, like I like this because there's a tint of gold in there still. It's not like completely white. Yeah, so it definitely.
I don't know. Some of that white shit is fucking tasty though.
Yeah, it can be for sure, but some of it is absolutely not.
Yeah.
I saw another one. I didn't throw it in the rundown, but the banger was like purple. Like whatever the dab is the kid took, he's like, is it normal for CRC to leave behind purple puddles in your banger? Like, no, not usually.
Doesn't sound healthy.
Not usually.
That's terrible. Oh my
yeah.
god.
Did it taste like grape drank? Because it looks like grape drank. It's gross.
Really? That's disgusting.
I'm sure someone will find it and throw it in the chat, but it was on the subreddit somewhere, but it was literally just like his banger and it had this purple puddle in it and it was gross.
CRC is pretty much
Color remediation, yeah, it's color remediation cartridge or column or whatever C you want to use there. Yeah, you're just purifying it more, basically. You can use it to take trash and turn it into 5-star, or you can use it to take really good weed and turn it into like really nice looking slabs like that and stuff. So there's good and there's bad to it, just like with anything. It's all about how it's used. And then the last thing off of the RDAB subreddit I wanted to mention was posted by user Sleazy Saul talking about cold starts. And I thought it was amusing because this fella's been dabbing for about 4 years and is just now figuring out that cold starts are kind of the way if you don't want to chaz your banger up or if you're iffy on temperatures and stuff. So I thought it was interesting. I wanted to bring it up that, like, even people that have been dabbing for a long time, like, they don't always know all the techniques. And sometimes I know I definitely prefer it when I'm using like expensive bangers, or if I'm dabbing certain consistencies and stuff, I just prefer to heat it up. I feel like I have more control over how hot it's getting, just going by those visual cues of the dab starting to bubble and everything. And it's less of a crapshoot when using other people's stuff, which I know a lot of you dab cats have anxiety and stuff. And I'm sure using somebody's $100, $200, $300 banger is just like anxiety plus 10, you know? It's like, I don't want to be the dickhead responsible for chazzing that shit. So cold start always, you know, there's no shame in cold starting game. That's
it's quite a nice. It's a different smoke too. It's a little bit easier on the lungs. So if your lungs are a little bit trash or something, it might be a little bit easier for you to smoke and stuff like that. I do that a lot because I'm asthmatic.
Oh yeah, you definitely, and you're not like getting it all at once because it is still heating up as you're getting your hit. So you're going up and yeah.
Right. Yep. Absolutely.
So I thought that was cool. Curious in the chat, everyone uses like DTV4s and shit. Like the people in the chat that use torches and stuff. Do you cold start? Do you hot start? What do you do? I'm kind of curious. Take a little tally as we move on here. So question of the week, Milk Mother had a jam-packed page-long question, which I definitely appreciate. Two-page question, excuse me. Mainly talking about like heavy metals. What metals are we referring to, or are people referring to when they talk about heavy metals in the weed? Is it just a catch-all term? Usually when I'm talking about it, I'm describing things like sulfur or phosphorus. I don't know if silica is considered a heavy metal or not. I don't think it is. I think it's just more of a mineral. And then, of course, your other heavier metals like Pantera, Slayer, Metallica, stuff like that. I hope there's no Slayer or Pantera in your weed, though. But because of the way weed works, and I know Grand is a lot more informed on this than I am, but I'll just give you the quick rundown that like the weed will just uptake whatever's in the soil. Some people will add things because their plant is deficient in certain things, and when the plant becomes deficient in certain things, it has a hard time regulating other things that it needs to do. So then people go around chasing the deficiency cycle, and every time you add something, you have to change something else up, I think. And so eventually you're just like hot metal loading these poor plants, and if you don't flush it all out in time, all of that stuff comes out in the extracts. And what started out as a very small amount in a flower becomes now a very concentrated amount in the concentrate. So yes, that's the danger with the concentrates for sure. I do want to say that there is some, how do I say it, discrepancy in flushing, if it actually does remove all of the toxins or not, because like you said, the plant does uptake everything. Just, it's like a sponge. It's going to suck up everything that's in the soil. Anything that you give it, it's going to suck it up. And like you said, if it has deficiencies, you're going to start chasing that deficiency line, and then all of a sudden you're going to realize that you added way too much sodium or what, phosphorus or what have you, and then it shows up. So that's why it's really best to not add anything. Right. You grow your soil, not the plants. That's what I always hear farmers talk about. They we grow soil here, and then the plants enjoy the soil. If your soil's off, you're going to constantly be chasing that cycle.
Because your plant is only an indicator of what's happening in the soil. And
it also depends. If you know your weed is not going towards extracts and stuff, then it doesn't matter as much. Granted, we want our weed to be as organic and as natural as possible for sure, but it's not as mandatory, I guess, as it is if you're growing for extracts, because that stuff will definitely clear a lab at certain temperatures. If you're like decarbing a batch of crude oil or something, you hit that temp and all of a sudden you just smell fireworks and like dead rotten eggs and shit. Like that's just not a good experience.
From what?
From like sulfur and phosphorus. It has that like rotten egg kind of smell, but then phosphorus has like a fireworks kind of smell, so it mixes together, and like in a lab it stinks.
Really?
So gross. If
I don't have any experience with that, so it's interesting.
and then neem oil also will definitely turn your extracts a little darker if there's too much on there. I don't know what that like level is where it's okay and then it becomes not okay. But you definitely notice in extracts you get a lot darker of material for some reason that have the neem oil on it. And also a funky smell from that as well. It's just best if you're growing for extracts, just keep that shit as natural as possible.
See, I was always under the impression that just keeping it as natural as possible is like always kind of the best. I mean, it's where you get the best deals from.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I guess you could probably.
But not everyone can do that, right? Everyone is trying to grow like the best for the cheapest in the worst possible conditions, and then it's just you end up with like this just not pleasant flower experience, and even more so with the extracts.
Right. Yeah, that's true. I mean,
so what's the deal with flushing? You think that it just stays in the plant, or it goes into different parts of the plant and then just resides there? Like, can you get it all flushed into the stems? Because maybe we're not pressing or extracting the stems.
See, I want to personally start out and say that I am not 100% sure on this. This is all on stuff I've heard. So it's not like me saying this is what's law and what's happening, but I've heard that pretty much once it's sucked up, there's nothing you can do to get it out of that plant. It's already getting pushed to the plant. It's kind of like a one-way street. Whereas water's getting sucked up, it's not getting pushed back down. So it's always just going out and getting used. So once that metal or vitamin or what have you gets sucked up by the plant, it's done. There is no flushing it out. You can flush out the soil. So if you think your plant has gotten enough of whatever you added to it and you want to get the rest of that out of that soil before you get it too high, I think then flushing would be a good idea. But even then, I don't know how much of that.
You think it's more helping get it out of the soil rather than actually getting any of it out of the plant? That's interesting.
Absolutely. I think throwing more water in it might help dilute it a little bit inside of the plant, maybe, but it's still, the high concentration is in there. It's going to get used up by that plant. It's like if you ate something, it's going to be digested and used up and dissolved through your liver and intestines and all that. It's not going to just... And the excess
I mean, we're not plants, but like with us, the excess just gets peed or pooed out after we absorb what we want.
Excess.
Right.
Yes, that's where the leaves start dying and stuff like that because they don't have an excess. It's just going to be thrown out there.
Pockrock says, ooh, we're talking about flushing. Personally, I think it's mostly BS. Once the plant has taken in the nutrients, they aren't chilling in the stems and such, I'm sure what is being said. Yes.
Right. Well, I mean, think about how long...
The plant isn't pooping it back into the soil. It's staying there. That's why farmers used to use hemp to, like, fix their soil. If they knew they had, or they were growing over, like, a batch of, like, arsenic or something else, they would plant hemp. The hemp would absorb it out, and then they'd just go discard the hemp, and then they could plant their crops and shit.
Right. And I think, too, what's very, very, very showing is think about how much you water something. If you water a plant one day, you're going to have to water it the next day. So it's already used up all of that water, and it's inside the plant. So pretty much within a day's time, all of that's inside the plant and being used at the very, very ends to grow new stuff and make everything healthy.
Now, I've also read that certain things that you would add to the soil can help the plant uptake other things more efficiently. So if it has, absolutely. But that's where you get into that trouble of like, okay, I just added these two things and now I'm uptaking this, but now I have too much of this other thing because it also regulates that uptake. And it's like, it gets into a pretty convoluted mess, like pretty quickly, I would say.
Absolutely. You can even, because of the way the plant uptakes vitamins and stuff like that, the pH of the stuff that's being added to the soil and the pH of the soil itself actually matters greatly on the uptake of certain minerals. It's going to uptake certain minerals better at different pH levels.
So, and she's asking also, like, if the end goal is Rawson versus BHO, does it matter? Now, I know in BHO it absolutely does, but with Rawson, does that stuff I would assume it gets carried over just in the plant oils, rather than like in the
absolutely.
hydrocarbon. So maybe you don't get as much of it, but I'm not sure as far as pressing goes. But it doesn't
I would
sound like
actually
we're
go to
very sure about any of this. So
I would actually go to say it's probably on the exact same plane.
you think?
It
You
matters
don't think
just
the
as much as the weight,
hydrocarbons are
though.
pulling more of that over with the plant oils and terps as
I would
opposed to
almost say
just the
probably
oil?
you can pull out more with the hydrocarbons.
Right, that's what I'm saying. So you would get less of that contamination in a press versus in like an extraction, because you're not using hydrocarbon, you're only using the plant oils, whereas the hydrocarbon extraction has the hydrocarbon and the plant oils. So you get
Maybe
both.
a little bit more, but you're still going to get a good concentration
Sure.
in the rosin.
Sure.
So you're probably going to get more of a higher concentration, but it's still, I'd say it's almost on the same plane. Yeah.
And as far as an easy way to test for that, I mean, other than like actually getting it tested for heavy
I don't
metals,
think there
labs
is anyway.
labs will do that if you're in a legal state. I don't know. I mean, if it's hemp, I suppose you could mail it to a lab in another state. I don't know. I would definitely like contact a lab that you were planning on sending samples to and make sure that that's okay. Otherwise, they might just get thrown in the trash.
I don't think there is any other way besides getting it tested by a lab.
Yeah.
Other than like if it tastes like fucking
Yeah,
hell,
yeah. I mean, if
it's
other than the
like-
obvious, if
Yeah.
if your room smells like fucking the 4th of July fireworks show after dabbing, like yeah, it's probably not good.
This kind of goes back to the argument of everything needs to be legalized, so everything can
Yeah,
be regulated
for
and
sure.
safe for everyone. So like where I'm at, everything I get is tested. I know that it's fine.
Same.
But
Yeah.
for people who are in legal states, they don't really have a choice.
And then to end off the question of the week, she says, I've seen her old heads washing flour covered in white powdery mildew with peroxide to just clean it off after harvest. Not condoning it, but would a gentle pre-wash help remove some adulterants in any capacity, or is it just press, blast, and pray?
So
You can. That's part of like pesticide remediation and everything, but you're doing the extraction first because you want to get what needs to be remediated in as small of a package as possible. So you want to take, let's say, that 100 pounds of flour and turn it into like 100 grams for 10% yield or whatever of oil, and then remediate that rather than having to wash a whole bunch of weed. Now you just have to wash a little beaker full of oil. And then you would do things depending on what it's contaminated with. Obviously, the more of that you would know, the better off your remediation will be. But if it's like pesticides and stuff, you can give it like a brine, rinse, salt water will pull a lot of that shit out. It'll also pull out any like water solubles like sugars and chlorophylls and stuff. And then as far as like heavy metals, you just need to know what the metal is, because then you can make a load in your filter stack that's based on that, that'll pull out that stuff. So if it's like sulfur or something, you'd use copper. If it's, arsenic or phosphorus or whatever, you'd use whatever binds to that and gets it out. So definitely knowing is a lot better.
So from a rosin perspective, I have heard of some people washing buds, like in an outdoor, people getting outdoor and going to press it in for rosin or stuff. I have heard of washing the bud, which has minimal THC loss if you do it correctly. Obviously, not doing it hot or something, dissolving it all.
Is that
Just washing
different
it.
though than making like hash and then pressing the hash? This is still
Yes.
going to press the flour. Okay.
Yes. It's the exact opposite of what you're trying to do with the water hash. You're trying to keep all of the trichomes on the bud. You're just trying to wash what's on top of it, any bugs or anything that's inside of it. You're not really going to get anything that's inside of the plant, like any, minerals or anything, or heavy metals or anything out of it. It's more of just an outside wash.
So for like powdery mildew and bugs and stuff, that's pretty
Yes.
gross.
Yes. Well, for an outdoor, you're going to get bugs. There's no
Yeah.
There's no
I
ifs,
get-
ands, or buts about it. There are bugs.
I've seen videos of people getting clowned online of like vacuuming off their buds with like a shop vac and just sucking the webs and shit off.
Oh my
So
god, all the
gross.
spider mites? That's
Yeah.
disgusting.
Just taking a
Okay,
shop vac to them. Like, I don't know if it's real or
Spider
not,
mites
but
no, absolutely. But like, there's like aphids and stuff like that. Those are inevitable. It's just gonna happen. But if you have spider mite infestation, you absolutely need to fix it. That's a no-no.
There you go. Some what's that? Worthless Genetics on Instagram. That's the account I'm thinking of. They always, you ever follow that shit? They post like the worst brickweed, and they're like, tap in fam, got that new like log stem OG. Like it's a satire account, but it's so fucking funny. But that's what that reminds me of in the chat there. That's that real fire, that log jam OG. All right, let's get into some weed news. I thought this was kind of interesting because it's kind of my home state back in Montana. They're finally getting around to doing some untethering. Before, you had to have your card, and that card was linked to a specific dispensary. And that was the only dispensary or individual, not even, some of them aren't even like actual dispensaries. It's just you call up homeboy and he comes and brings you your weed, or you go pick it up. But
sucks.
when you get your card, you put down a name or a business, and like that's where you're stuck to. So if something happens and their crop gets fucked up, or they just stop bringing the fire, or a lot of shit can go wrong when you're growing plants and stuff. You're stuck there until you refile. Yeah, exactly. So I thought it was kind of cool. They're finally now 2020 getting around to doing some untethering. Montana Medical is kind of what this show started around back in 2008. So it's always got a place in my heart there, being my hometown or my home state. So I thought that was kind of cool. And they say in the article, no one wants to eat at McDonald's every day, over and over again, when 1,000 different places make hamburgers. It's the same with medication or anything else. People want variety, they want to shop at different places, and they want accessibility. And I think, 100%.
If they got the best hamburger, I'm not going to say.
Yeah.
Five Guys hamburgers are pretty fucking good, too.
They are pretty good. If I had to pick one to eat every day, it would probably be Five Guys.
No, I think I'm probably gonna go get Five Guys after we
Right.
get done with this.
I'm door dashing Five Guys as we speak. Last year, the Montana
Take this
legislature.
show for like 15 minutes while I run out.
Right? Just bring it upstairs. Leave it in the comments. Last year, the Montana legislature approved Senate Bill 265, a medical marijuana reform bill that called for untethering patients by the end of June 2020. In April, the Montana Department of Public Health and Human Services officially informed patients and providers that it would implement the change on Tuesday, June 2nd. So, coming soon. SB, what?
Guess what time it is?
Oh, it's dab time, baby. Oh,
It's
shit.
fucking dab time.
Oh,
That's
shit.
right. Let's go.
Take a dab, baby.
Sorry. Go ahead, continue.
SB 265 said registered cardholders could purchase up to 1 ounce of usable weed per day and a maximum of 5 ounces per month. It also required that the state's seed-to-sale tracking system could alert a provider when a cardholder was buying more than they were allowed. The biggest challenge the system faces is getting that tracking in place that allows a provider to know how much a cardholder has purchased previous to walking in the door, without also giving that provider details of all the purchases that were made at other providers. So we want to help protect that privacy and still allow providers the ability to check on the limits purchased.
Anybody who keeps books,
Yeah, it seems like a silly non-issue that's like an excuse of an issue. That's like, well,
Right.
Does it really matter how much weed we're buying? Like, I think just a normal market will sort that out. Eventually, people will run out of money, and then they will stop buying the weed for that day. Like, let it sort itself out. Why do you have to say how much?
Right. Because I smoke a different amount than you smoke.
For real. And they do that here even. It's like that everywhere. It's just one of those annoying things that like, well, if you want your weed if you don't want to be a criminal with your weed, then you gotta like only be able to buy an ounce per day or whatever. Like, it's so stupid, but we don't
have that here.
These are the hoops we jump through.
We just have, you can only have a max amount on you.
Yeah. But you can buy up to that amount.
Right.
Yeah. It's lame. Pretty lame. How's that dab? Oh, he's taking it.
Just starting it. Oh, yeah.
Join us live right here.
Tooth hates me when I take dabs and don't mute myself.
I agree with him, though. Because then I have to edit it out, and then it messes up the whole shit. Pockrock says in Washington, anyway, you can only possess an ounce at a time. I'm not sure what the possession is here in Oregon, but I know you can only buy an ounce. Unless you're medical, then you can buy like 4 or something. Which is a bold assumption that medical people would smoke more weed than the rec people. I mean, if anything, I think you should just, let them buy as much as they want on both sides. But just stifling industry, whatever. Let's see, moving on. A task force comprised of former lawmakers, federal prosecutors, and reform advocates issued a series of recommendations Wednesday about criminal justice policy changes that should be enacted, and that includes creating a waiver system to allow states to set their own weed policies without federal interference. Like America should be. They're gonna let the states decide.
Oh, I was muted during that. I was like, fuck you, federals. Fuck America.
This is America. Fuck yeah. I just think it's funny that they're like,
yeah.
We had to build this whole task force to let America do what America does, which is letting the states set the state laws. It's like, all right, cool. I'm glad.
I thought it was the exact opposite.
I'm glad we paid for that. Really?
Yeah. Oh, I thought you were being sarcastic for that entire thing.
Oh, well, I mean, I'm glad it's happening. I don't think that, they could have just asked us. We would have been yeah, let the states do what the states want to do.
Oh, so they are letting them?
They're working on it. They're drafting. Okay. We're in the brainstorming phase of this. They're drafting. We got the task force formed. We got everyone's pockets padded that we needed to pad, right? So
Jesus.
The next step. My pocket's not padded, baby. My pockets are empty, baby.
Fucking padding, Pat.
The Council on Criminal Justice Task Force was established prior to the coronavirus pandemic, but its new report said the health crisis has, quote, underscored the urgency of the recommendations. With everyone staying at home, we're going to need as much weed as possible. Okay.
God. If it wasn't for the fucking stupid virus, we would have had our shit legal by now.
Vinter in the chat says, Matt, that just reminded me 50 grams is the death penalty in China. So, no matter how bad you have it, somebody's always got it worse. It's a good example of that. Shout out to China.
That's like just over 2 ounces.
But you guys keep buying their rigs, so I'm just kidding. You guys buy whatever rigs you want to buy. You can come to sweetpieceofglass.com, buy a rig from there too. You do what you want.
Shameless plug.
Shameless.
Hashtag.
You can check out Gary too. What's that called?
Gary's Glass Adventure.
There you go. Check us both out.
I'm the one that just took a dab.
Sally Yates, who served as Deputy Attorney General and Interim Attorney General, is on the task force. Also, Georgia Governor Nathan Deal, former Philadelphia Mayor Michael Nutter, and former D.C. and Philadelphia Police Chief Charles Ramsey. Mark Holden, who was Senior Vice President and General Counsel at Koch Industries, said, and David, I'm going to get through this, and David Safavian, General Counsel of the American Conservative Union, also members. Together, the group agreed on 15 reform recommendations. While they didn't endorse federally legalizing weed outright, the group said the current conflict between local and national policy is untenable and should be addressed in the interim by creating waivers for states to proceed with marijuana legalization without the fear of federal intervention.
Okay.
Beautiful.
So, let me get this straight. We got Captain Nutter, right?
Yep. And we got Koch Industries, and they're both up in this, trying to make some waivers.
We're screwed. They think we're a fucking joke. We're coming in there with Captain Nutter and Koch Industries. What the fuck is this?
I don't know.
Joking?
I'm about
Tell
to.
me that's a joke.
I'm gonna add to my Koch holdings in my Robinhood, and I'm gonna buy some Koch, and we'll see.
That's a joke.
We'll see how it does. Is Koch listed on the hood?
Oh my god.
What's that? Wait, I'm getting word. Oh, we've been canceled. But it is good. It sucks that like things have to get to a point where like they have to do this and have a big whole thing and waste a bunch more money just to do what we should be doing. But at least we're doing it now. So that's good.
I don't know about you, but I'm taking all my money out of Apple and putting it in the cock.
Awesome. We are not stock. We're not stock investor recommenders. We're not.
Wait, where's that disclaimer I posted on the Discord somewhere?
We're definitely not bankers.
Definitely not bankers. Oh my god. The opinions expressed in the Discord are those of the public individuals and do not represent the opinions expressed in the Discord. Oh jeez. I can't believe that that's actually their fucking name and name of their company. Like, I thought you were joking with me.
No, Cock brand. Like, it's a big brand. It's really big. And,
Really?
yeah.
Is it huge?
It's pretty big. I mean,
I haven't seen it.
they have a lot of holdings. I can't. Okay.
I haven't seen it.
Okay. Moving on. In Oregon here, where I'm allegedly at, Oregon farmers grow a lot more cannabis than they consume, than the Oregonians here consume. And so what happens to the excess? Well, that depends entirely on what kind of grower you happen to be. In the legal market, licensed companies are currently sitting on a surplus of roughly 1 million pounds, which is,
Wow.
they say, enough to keep the state stoned at the current levels for 6 years. I mean, that's old weed, though. Weed doesn't, like, last forever, you know? That's,
Yeah, I was
it's not
gonna say, like,
aging
it's
like a
like
fine
fun.
wine.
Like, you're gonna have to make that into edibles or something.
Yeah,
You know?
it's going straight to disty, which is fine. It's keep me busy. Meanwhile,
right.
Oregon's illicit growers just keep doing what they've always done, supplying the East Coast with weed, supplying unlicensed cannabis to appreciative consumers in states where a combination of restrictive laws and poor climate make for a net cannabis deficit.
Where can you not grow?
Probably like in New York, like in the fucking city. Maybe you could grow on the roof, right? You could do rooftop gardens and shit.
I don't know if you can get away with that shit.
Yeah, well, not for weed. I mean, you could grow like a garden, but yeah.
Anywhere that you can actually legally grow and you can have a yard,
Yeah.
where can you not grow? Like, I'm talking climate-wise.
Well, I don't like Montana. It gets
it's a
really
fucking
cold
weed.
really
I'm pretty
early.
sure they have wild weed growing in Montana.
Well, yeah, but it's different strain, right? It's like more of a quick 2-month auto flower ruderalis
Yeah.
versus at least naturally. Obviously, people are growing weed there, but it's
Is
all
that where they got
indoor.
natural autoflowers from?
That's
do
where I
people
first
know what
saw it.
autoflowers are? Because
It's the one you can.
Flowers are the natural like state of kind of cannabis. They flower and stuff by the sun. So if they have a certain amount of sunlight, they'll stay in vegetation mode. If they have a lesser amount, they'll actually go into flower. What autos are is they'll actually go by time. So no matter what kind of light they'll have, they'll flower at a certain time, and that comes from a plant that like grew high in the mountains where there's a lot of sunlight, like pretty much constantly. So they have to do it by a time. They can't go by the sun.
Autoflower, don't give a fuck. That's the one you can flip on little LED trays, like a bunch of over and over. But it's not like super great weed, I don't think.
I mean,
I've had some decent autoflower.
I've heard of some pretty good auto weed, but it has like an aftertaste almost like a menthol.
I think it's more of like I can grow this in a closet and get like a few pounds per per closet, you know. So I'll just do it quick. It's a quick flip versus your longer finishing.
Yeah, because they're only like a 2-month done.
Yeah. So because of all this excess weed, and then obviously it's basic fucking, like I said, I'm not a fucking stockbroker investor cat, but like this is basic economics, you guys. We have a bunch of weed. They have no weed. So you have supply and then you have the demand. Now we just need, if only there was a way to meet in the middle and transfer this supply to that demand, all while taking a couple points off the top for myself and my friends.
Okay, too. Before he starts this, we need a blackout and we need a Economics with Matt.
Economics with Max. So in June 2019, Governor Kate Brown here signed legislation that would allow Oregon to make agreements with other states to import and export legal cannabis, but only if federal law changes to expressly permit the practice. So you have the group we just talked about, hopefully going to make the waivers that Oregon and then let's say like New York or any other state, Indiana or wherever, then we can each get our waivers on, and then we can start shipping legit packs back and forth, keeping the U.S. Postal Service also in business in the process. It's a beautiful thing.
Dude, that'd be insane if they actually made shipping fucking legal.
Right?
That'd be fucking nuts. Shit would be off the hook.
It's a no-brainer though, right? You have this
should be.
suffering here of Postal Service not making enough money, and then you have this surplus of weed here with nobody here that's gonna fucking smoke it, and then you have all these people over here that are like, we'll smoke whatever, we don't give a shit. Put it all together and do it. It's just logistics. It's super easy. We have AI that can literally do this right now.
With the day and age of the internet, people can talk so easily, and they'd be like, hey, look, this is my shit.
We just need the waivers.
You want to try some? Here you go. I'll send you some.
Hey, I'm going to write a waiver. If all we need are waivers, we'll just write our own waivers. They're like, nope, we're good. Got the waivers right here. Says from Matt and Grant at the Hotbox. Says I can send this weed. I'm good.
Remove Grant. I'm not putting my name on this.
See, it says Grand and Oli Bear. It says we're good.
Specifically, Old Bear.
Shout out Oli Bear.
He was like, yeah, we're fine, man.
Oh, we're definitely getting canceled now.
And then right after that is his address.
Oh my god. For any questions, comments, or concerns. So yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. I hope it happens. I think it needs to happen. I think it can really improve a lot of shit, make a lot more jobs. It's just good all around. So, and I mean, it's happening anyway, so you might as well bless it. Then it's not happening. Allegedly,
we cannot condone the shipping of anything. It's not safe, guys. Don't do it. Just find something local and support local until this is made legal, and then go fucking wild.
Go buck wild.
Until then, buy local. Support local farmers.
I thought this was kind of cool. New York recently amended its New York City human rights law to ban drug testing applicants for marijuana with exceptions for positions involving construction, police, commercial driving, supervision of children, and other occupations that involve health and safety. So another small step, but definitely in the right direction. This will probably help unemployment. I don't know about now with what's going on, but before all of this probably would have helped the unemployment rate.
Now unemployment's up 500%.
Yeah,
I don't think anything's helping that.
Yeah,
I've even heard people now are getting offers for jobs and stuff like that, and they don't want to because they're making so much more now than they were before when they were working.
You mean I can come waste 10 hours a day for you for $8.50 an hour, or I can just sit here and fucking chill for 12? I'm getting my game on right now.
And I'm getting paid.
And I'm getting paid. I'm literally a professional gamer / podcaster. It's the best. Literally the best.
That's how that works. I'm not sure, but I could be wrong.
Additionally, positions where testing is required by law or agreed to in a collective bargaining agreement are exempt from this law. Simply stated, employers still may test many prospective employees whose jobs entail heightened safety requirements or otherwise fall in the exceptions set forth in the new law. And employers still may test current employees. The law became...
So pretty much any good-paying jobs and anybody now.
Yeah. And then, truck drivers, I guess you're still on meth. Because no weed for y'all, but
I guess just keep smoking meth.
I guess just keep railing that meth, keep getting those packages where they need to go.
Oh my god.
New York City employers should carefully review their employment applications and other applicant materials to ensure that they are complying with this and other local laws, of course, because that's what you do when you're a business.
We just need fucking weed to be legal. Can we just end prohibition, please?
We've been trying. Been trying since '08. I know the people have been trying since long before that. Definitely.
Dude, we've taken a lot more steps than I thought we would take in my lifetime.
Oh, for sure. I never thought that when I was a kid getting fucking harassed for it and getting my bongs stolen by my mom and having them thrown in the trash and like cops being like, "Does that smell like weed to you?" I'm like, "Nope, sure."
Like,
I could just go to the store and buy it.
Right, yeah.
Literally had the guy just walk it out to my car the other day because I was lazy and didn't want to get out of my car, and they're still doing curbside. So fuck it. Exactly. It's nice.
It's messed up.
It's good that we've made it this far. I'm curious to see what else ends up happening. I mean, it'll be a full on when all 50 states and probably, I don't even know if international, but let's just like countrywide. Once that all opens up, like I think it'll more fully be realized what this thing is worth as far as like an actual contributing piece to the economy.
You know what, Matt? I think if we're still around kicking for that during the show, we can send something to somebody then. We'll do a giveaway.
Some weed, yeah. We'll actually send some
give
weed.
Away actual product.
We'll
when
pack
legal,
up the band hammer.
FBI watching this, just so you're knowing now, we're not giving away anything now. When and if it becomes legal, we will give away product then. We will do a first giveaway then. I think that is absolutely fitting. I'm sure Tooth agrees. I can't. He's not speaking right now.
That would be
like his stupid child voice.
He's busy finding the disclaimer.
He's contacting the lawyers right now.
Right. All right. We'll end the show. Got a couple searches and seizures we'll mention. I know you guys like hearing about this kind of shit. Some illegal Bend, Oregon. This one getting kind of close to home here. I mean, not really, but it's in Oregon. Charges and arrests are expected in the near future after neighbor complaints prompted a series of 3 raids on allegedly illegal marijuana grow ops in Deschutes County. They had the SWAT team and everything out there. 3 search warrants. What'd they find? Detectives, and this goes back to the be good to your neighbors and be friendly to your neighbors, because otherwise your neighbors are going to call the cops on you. So the investigation, yeah, exactly. The investigation began after detectives received complaints from neighbors about the odor, the validity of the grow operations, and more unfamiliar traffic in their neighborhoods. The first raid took place at this property down in Lapine. They said they found 132 illegal plants, more than 31 pounds of illegal processed weed. So a bunch of plants, bunch of processed weed, probably wrapped up in packs. Detectives also found apparently unpermitted structures, interesting, and electrical work being used to support the grow operation. Interesting.
So, moral of today's story is drop off free weed to your neighbors.
Well, especially if you're going to steal their electricity, I think. Like,
oh, no.
That's the main thing.
Oh.
Be a good neighbor.
That's how you fuck up. Criminals are dumb.
Low-hanging fruit. Boink. And it's messing up the nearby public lands, of course. Fire hazards, safety of the homes and families in the area. The neighbors, quote, "There are many neighbors who wanted this crackdown for a long time. Almost next door, there's a family over there with kids. What I was told is that those folks have complained about the marijuana growers for a very long time. They've complained that they have children there and it smelled awful." Over the past 2 years, there have been at least 4 illegal marijuana grows raided in the Lapine area. And then they served another search warrant that found a felony amount of butane hash or honey oil and a firearm at the location.
What's a felony amount nowadays?
I don't know. That's a good question. Anyone want to look up? Tooth, pull that shit up. What's a felony?
Pull that shit up, Tooth.
Pull that shit up. Felony amount of BHO in Oregon. Pretty sure it's under 25 grams, he says.
So over an ounce, pretty much?
Almost an ounce. An ounce with the container. So yeah, you know, if you're as we always like to say, if you're out there doing that, just know who your neighbors are and hope that they're friends.
Drop off free weed to them.
And drop off good weed to them. Or, you know what? Doesn't even have to be weed. Part of being a friendly neighbor is just finding out what your neighbors like and then bringing it to them.
Beer.
Do you drink beer? Here's some microbrews. Do you smoke weed? Here's some good weed. Do you know, like, they're not going to snitch on you. If anything, they're going to be cool with you. I guess at the worst, they're going to like extort you for more free weed. I mean, which is better than the cops doing it.
You're gonna have to fucking give them free shit. That's just how that shit goes.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta pay to play. That's how business goes. Whether it's the cartel or the mob, you're gonna pay somebody. You know.
Life Lessons 101, Matt Grant.
And then in Illinois, 57-year-old Illinois man is facing multiple felony and misdemeanor charges after allegedly being caught driving under the influence on the I-94 with weed and narcotics in the car. He was
that's not good.
charged with possession of narcotic drugs, possession of weed, both felonies and second offenses. It's not his first rodeo. As well as operating a motor vehicle while under the influence, possession of drug paraphernalia, and possession of a controlled substance, all misdemeanors.
It's weed, I kind of have an issue with that because I myself have to be medicated at all times. So, I mean, just to not, like, freak out and be able to drive, I have to be medicated. So it's kind of like a catch-22 for me, but there's a difference between being medicated and being fucking joint out, and it sounds like that man was on some other type of controlled substance.
They definitely found pill bottles in the car. Lots of pill bottles, edible bars, vape carts. And in response to the deputy that saw the marijuana, he allegedly said, "Oh yeah, I forgot it's not legal everywhere." Recreational weed was legalized in Illinois as of January 1st. Also in the vehicle, they found a joint, hydrocodone, and oxycodone, and nuggets of marijuana. So,
he was pilling out.
Oh, yeah.
It had nothing to do with the weed. He was just fucking pilling out.
Oh, yeah. I thought it was legal. Oh, the pills, though? Yeah, those are mine. I'm fucked up right now.
I'm fucking high.
So, also a good lesson to just never commit felonies when you're committing felonies, you know, one at a time.
Don't double dip.
Don't double dip. One at a time, y'all. Who are the boosters this week? Shout out to the boosters.
The boosters. God, I don't have it up.
Ace of Spades, Deja Vu, Dr. Dabberstein, Eastern Dank, Milk Mother, Oli Bear, Swagrat, and Vinter. Shout out to all y'all keeping the server boosted. Ooh. And we'll have another giveaway to keep us rolling here probably the next week or two. We'll have it put together, figure out what we gonna do and how we gonna do it. Which begs the
question for all of you listening right now.
Ooh.
What do you want to see us give away next?
Ooh, I know there was some talk of a ZB cap. Give away one of them V2 clears. We could do that. Yeah. Maybe something small. I should have those misers in. Maybe do like a miser and a cap combo. Maybe a couple pearls. Something like that. Maybe a spinner cap.
You gotta throw in a pearl or two. I mean, those aren't too much, right?
Yeah.
Those are like a couple bucks.
Couple like Lucy UV pearls and a nice miser and a ZB and a spinner cap.
I don't know. What do you guys think? Tell us. Let us know.
What do you want? What do you want from me? What do you want?
I'm sure we can set up a poll. Give us some suggestions.
I should mention too, album art finally got finished up.
Oh, for Mr.
from my album, Hip Hop Don't Stop, Virus Diaries, coming out June 8th. So if you like rap music, check out my shit. And even if you don't, just check it out anyway, because you know. Streams pay. Hell yeah. All right.
Note, Mr. Matt, I think it's time to wrap things up here.
Yep, we'll meet y'all in the Dab Lounge in the Smoke Sesh channel. Thanks for joining us. Hotbox.earth, that's the website. Check it out. Come join the Dab subreddit. Find us here in the Discord. Links are on the site. And make sure you're subscribed. You can leave a review in iTunes. We're also on Stitcher, TuneIn, and Spotify. So definitely check us out there if you just want to catch the audio. And then we'll have the video posted on the YouTube page. We'll catch y'all.
What's up?
Catch y'all next week.
Later.